All right, welcome back to the AM show, which is sponsored by Shell Silicon Paint from Azar Group, Syntex tanks, or Syntex pipes, and Time Ever mixture. Now, let's talk about the MPP presidential primaries, right? We're just some few days away from 31st January, when the MPP will go to polls to elect a flag bearer for the 2028 general elections. Will it be Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia? Will it be kind of rep? What did I say? What? Will it be Kennedy Agyapong? Will it be Dr. Brian Achampong or Kwabena Agyapong or Dr. Osei Yawedichum? I've been joined by a team member of the Kennedy Agyapong campaign team, Dr. Alex Ampaabeng. He's former Deputy Finance Minister. Grateful to you for joining. Why should people elect Kennedy Agyapong as flag bearer and not repeat the 2024 flag bearer?
You know, every election has dynamics. And I'm sure if you ask every military person, they will tell you that every war defines who the commander should be. You look at in 2000, late 90s, 2000, Ghana's biggest problem was healthcare. And when President Kufuor came in with free maternal care, NHIS, Ghanaians gave them the power, him the power. Then came, most recently, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Cost of education, student dropouts. What was the solution? Free senior high. He came, Ghanaians bought into the idea and perfectly executed in both instances. Now, Ghana's biggest problem, we all know, is unemployment. There was a record, a publication by the Ghana Statistical Service about 3 weeks ago, that the unemployment rate, youth unemployment specifically, is 1.3 million. And you see, the universities every year are producing graduates, over 100,000 a year. And then we have those who are turning 18 at their adult age ready to start work. The question is, where is work? I have had the opportunity to travel with Honorable Kennedy Agyapong in almost every part of Ghana. And the sad reality we don't want to confront is what makes Kennedy a unique individual to solve those problems now. You go to most communities and you see most of the youth gathered in ghettos. Ghettos are growing like wildfire. We cannot sit here and pretend we don't know what is happening. Why are the ghettos growing? Because of lack of opportunities, lack of future opportunities for the youth. They don't see it. And therefore, drugs becomes the only way to rest their brains or their minds. And then in the evening, most towns we have been, around 7 p.m., just walk and you're going to see our young, beautiful ladies, some of whom we believe are graduates or ready for work. They can't find work. What they are doing, standing in every corner opportunity they get, sadly, to sell their bodies to survive. And these problems are not going to go away. So if you are in Ghana and you're looking for overcoming the youth unemployment, leading to those national security issues, you cannot sit back. And for Ghana to address this issue, it will not come by prayer. It will not come by miracle. It will come by deliberate policy choices. So I look at these people contesting, these 5 aspirants, and then ask myself, which of them has the solution in addressing this growing issue? And Kennedy stands tall. As a private person, he has delivered. With close to 20 companies employing over 7,000 people. If he can do this in a private capacity, when he has the opportunity to lead Ghana, where he has the institutional backing, he has a government machinery supporting him, he has access to the diplomatic environment, all the external forces in his favor, the man will deliver. And you see, most countries across the world who are now classified as prosperous nations didn't happen by accident. They got there because once upon a time, there was a leader who has a vision and a focus to change those fortunes. And to give you a quick example, America after the Great Depression didn't become America. We cannot talk about Americans' recovery and take away Franklin Roosevelt. Impossible. Come to Germany.
What was he, Franklin Roosevelt?
He was the president.
Yeah, but
And
was
his
he,
role,
was,
his
he,
leadership.
was he an industrialist? Was
Yeah,
he
exactly.
okay?
His role as a leader, an industrialist believer, was that America can get better if you can now be an industrial nation. And there was a direct policy focus, choices that move America where it was.
But had he created jobs himself? How many jobs had he created before he became president?
Who, Kennedy?
Yes, no, I mean Roosevelt.
No, what the point I'm making is about how America post the Depression literally collapsed. I'm talking about a reviving a collapsed economy. I'm not talking about 2 or 3 jobs that he...
So my question, the reason why I asked that was whether or not it is dependent on someone creating so many jobs as a private person, or it is about the person's ideas and policies and how it directs a government in creating jobs.
I'm making this comparison in twofold. One is about the direction the country has to go. And the other angle is about a bold, decisive leadership. So the Franklin Roosevelt is about a bold, decisive leadership that says, this is where I want America to go. And that boldness, decisive leadership is what we find in Kennedy.
Okay.
And the same bold, decisive leadership confronting all the challenges is what we see in Germany. Post-World War II, Germany totally collapsed. Absolutely, there was no hope for Germany. It took one man and his deputy to move Germany to where it was. So you cut off, I'm talking about Konrad Adenauer and Ludwig Erhard. Again, Charles de Gaulle revived the France economy. You can talk of Lee Kuan Yew. You can talk of Park Chung-hee, how he moved South Korea to become an industrial powerhouse. People are using the LGs and the Samsungs. You have the Daewoo, Matis, and all those Kia, all the Korean companies. Multinational companies built out of a leadership focus to bring in private, open the doors, make it a government that's investor-focused to drive in the FDIs to develop the countries. So what I'm trying to say is that having that practical experience and having been somebody, you see, running a company, multiple companies, means you are dealing with multiple challenges, multiple individuals, managing different sectors and functions, taking bold and sometimes unpopular decisions. And this is what Ghana needs as we hear now. You see...
But how do you define boldness in someone?
Boldness is someone that is willing to take decisions that are sometimes maybe unpopular. But
is it only your candidate that has that? That all the 5 candidates don't have that with them, that they can take decisions that matter when it matters most?
I think that's what we all know Kennedy for. I'm sure if you put all the 5 in the streets and ask which one of them is the bold candidate, which one of them, this is a man that will look at his government and challenge them if they are doing something that is not right in national interest. And there are so many records of Kennedy speaking against his own party. How many of those former aspirants was able to do that? In Ghana, we tend to celebrate what is politically correct, even if it's wrong. As long as it's the person's political party, they see nothing wrong. You would never see Kennedy doing that. If it's wrong, it's wrong. If it's right, it's right. So we need that kind of person to also have that drive and say, Akufo-Addo delivered free senior high. Kufuor delivered maternal and free healthcare, or the insurance package. My focus is to build or lead, create the avenue for factories and industries. That is the only way we are going to move Ghana. Look, the youth unemployment issue I'm talking about is not going to vanish overnight because we believe it should. It will only go, or it will only reduce if there's deliberate policy choices. And that deliberate policy choice will come from privatization, private sector coming in with the needed FDIs. It comes from the government being very focused and purposeful, say, this is my government, this is the direction I want us to go. And if you follow Kennedy's campaign, every constituency he goes, he identifies some opportunities. But the key is about the kind of items that we import. Ghana spends substantial amount of money importing various items every year. What it does, it creates jobs for people in those countries where we import from. Now, to address the youth unemployment, we need a government that will say, government alone cannot do it. Look, recently there's a police soldier recruitment. Look at the number of people going in. Why? Everybody wants to be police, everybody wants to be soldier. No. but because there's absolutely no other economic opportunities out there. But what we need is a government that will say, okay, Deng Xiaoping did that in China. In 1978, when China signed the Open and Reform Policy, that is what transformed China to the industrial powerhouse we see today. It's not by magic that it happened. Deng Xiaoping and his party sat down and did it, following Mao's earlier position. So what Kennedy wants to do is that, okay, this is the problem we have. We know this is a national security issue. We know we need to build our youth and give them a future. How do we do that? By government being purposeful and saying, my focus is 100% on job creation, on making sure that the local economies are stimulated to feed into the broader economy. Let me give you one good example of something he's been using. And I never knew, you know, the pseudostem from plantain and banana, bodiediano, which normally we just cut and throw it away.
Yeah.
I visited him, and before I made up my mind, I actually visited him to assess why I should follow him. And that's my personality. So out of the conversation came what you can use with the pseudostem from plantain and banana. And I was shocked. In fact, I didn't believe it on the spot until I went to do my research and later found out that this thing that we throw away is what we use in producing clothing, some types of clothing, baskets, paper, and some sanitary products for women. We have India as the world leader in that sector. Now, currently, you have a big manufacturing company in Uganda leading that. So imagine Kennedy comes and he says, okay, instead of importing some of those fiber to do the things that we do here, I want to move into that pseudostem production and then convert that into the fiber to do the necessary onward productions. Look, we are not going to import the raw materials from anywhere. It's going to make our farmers more committed. People may be willing to go into farming. As it stands, I'm from a massive plantain growing area. Sadly, when the season comes in, there's no storage facility, and then you see the plantain hoarded by the roadside, it goes waste. It doesn't encourage the farming to go in, the farmer to do more. It doesn't encourage the youth graduating from the universities to seek farming, because to them it's waste, and that's why everybody wants white-collar jobs. But if there's an avenue to create these opportunities, either private investors coming in, it's going to allow the youth job opportunities. We don't have to import any raw material from anywhere. What we need is that drive. Again, you talk of what you can do with coconut. But
you were a deputy minister then. You were from that area.
Yes.
You could have, and you're a deputy minister of finance.
Yes.
Why didn't you bring someone to solve that challenge if it was a big challenge as you're talking about?
You're asking a question I'm sure you should know the answer already.
No, I don't.
See, as a deputy minister, one, what do you do? Changing a national policy wouldn't come from a deputy minister.
Okay.
To say that nationally we want to industrialize, it takes a whole political will, the leader, to say we are going. So remember the examples I was giving you: Konrad Adenauer, Roosevelt, Charles de Gaulle, Park Chung-hee, and Lee Kuan Yew. They were not deputy ministers. They were presidents, and their vision was to transform their nation. So what we do is that we need that bold leader, that visionary leader that says, this is Ghana's problem, this is my solution. My ministers and deputies, let's go. Ghana, let's go. That leadership is what I haven't seen in anyone that can do.
There was 1D1F during your time. You could have taken advantage of that.
1D1F might have its own, and I think it's a perfect and a good starting. But I wouldn't like to go deep on the 1D1F because, one, I didn't have the chance to interrogate, the policy focus. That the policy focus I'm thinking of here is not just creating mini industries, but it's about positioning Ghana to be where it becomes more self-sufficient. So we industrialize our production, we process some of the things, we consume most of the ones that we have here, and then process and export the remaining. So it's kind of domestication. Credit to Professor
Danlati.
I remember when he brought this, Ghanaians were making fun of him.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you remember.
Yes.
They started calling everybody domestication. But now, listening to Kennedy's vision, if we had gone by then, I'm sure we won't be far away from China. Because if China 1978 opening up reform has made China 2025 and 6 the global leading economy through production, we could have gone by that route. And to me, this is not an issue of just trying to get votes or politicizing or politicking. The reality is that Ghana is confronted with huge issue. And if you don't see this, or somebody doesn't see this as a national security issue, I would be concerned.
But the Bawumia team would challenge that to say, one idea from Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia created 800,000 jobs, and they've been explaining through the mobile money interoperability. Ideas.
One idea created.
Yeah, that's what they will tell you.
Without trying to argue whether it's valid or not, how much capital the government invest in? How did we resource? Who are those? In fact, let me ask a very simple question. Where are those jobs? Who are they?
Mobile money agent.
The mobile money agent. Okay. I think Kennedy wants to do something different. And I think that's where my focus was.
So Kennedy will resource the people, will resource the entrepreneurs to...
It's one. One arm of it is SMEs.
Okay.
There's this big English, the SMEs is the engine of growth, the SMEs is the engine of growth. But when the engine has no oil, it cannot move.
Yeah.
So what we need to do is to make access to capital. One biggest challenge Ghanaians face, and that's why it becomes so difficult competing with the imported products. There are some products we manufacture them here. Rice.
Yeah.
But sometimes look at the cost of local rice against the cost of the foreign rice.
Yeah.
It becomes very difficult for the local producers to match. Why? The guy operating in Singapore, Thailand, and Indonesia are operating on near zero interest rate from borrowing. You come to Ghana and you're borrowing at about 20–30%. How easy will it be for you as a businessman to compete? Automatically, because of the cost of borrowing, we have been priced out. So Kennedy's vision is that making available cheap costs of doing business from the banks and other building societies is what he thinks Ghana needs. If the Ghanaian investor or the Ghanaian producer can borrow the same rate as the Chinese or as those in other countries, it will be more expensive to import than to rely on the domestic production. And when that happens, production booming means employment avenues are created. It trickles down to government revenue going up. So there's a positive cyclical benefit if government adopt this. And to me, as I'll keep going back to it again, the challenge is real. We need not to assume you don't see it. When you walk in the streets in the night, how do you see girls selling their bodies? When some of them are graduates that can get meaningful jobs and do. How do you see the boys in the street? Sometimes now there was a recent and there was somebody who closed their eyes and said, win him red. How do you think a guy who thinks there's a job available for them will go and do win him red? The reality is that the country's youth, their hope is sinking. And we cannot change this with the usual political speeches or the beautiful slogans. What we need in transforming this is a decisive leadership that has a clear path. And Kennedy has identified that we industrialize, we create opportunities, we allow ourselves to depend not to depend on external, but then we produce domestically, we consume some, because some of the items that we import, how do we import coconut juice? When you go to Nzima and Ezim area, coconut is all over.
All right. Doc, I'm grateful to you for spending your time with us this morning. And I wish you all the best. We are some few days away from January 31.
Yes.
So all the best to your team.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Alex Ampaabeng is former Deputy Finance Minister and a member of the Agyapong campaign team. Now, First Sky Group invites the public to its 23rd Thanksgiving service themed Proclaiming the Mighty Deeds of the Lord, hosted by founder and executive chairman, Mr. Eric Sedi Kutoche. Activities begin with an all-night service on Friday, January 23, 2026 at Trinity Temple Assemblies of God in Tema. The main Thanksgiving event will take place on Sunday, January 25, 2026 at the Accra International Conference Center, featuring Reverend Dominic Yo as guest speaker, Apostle General Sam Kranchi as chairman, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama as special guest of honor, administration and music by Kofi Osupepra. That's it. I see you there for that one. Now, was 2025 a good year for your business? Will 2026 be the year of growth for your business? How can you ensure you do not miss the numerous African opportunities in 2026? Join over 400 business and policy leaders as experts at Crystal Ball Africa 2026. Review the opportunities and how you take advantage of those. Date is Thursday, January 22, 2026 at Labadi Beach Hotel from 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. The theme is the Africa opportunity, time to take advantage. You don't want to miss this chance to network and tap into new opportunities. Register now to secure your spot at crystalballafrica.com. Sponsors include EcoBank, Labadi Beach Hotel, AGI, Kwawa Mocha, and media partners include City FM and Joy FM. This event is powered by AB and David Africa. We'll take a break here. When we return, we have an issue on the Heath mining and all that is coming up with a petition being sent to the presidency. Hold on for that.